Rochester Child and maybe 2 or 3 other initiatives that are still around. We believe that the cycle of poverty should be broken in the city of Rochester so that children had an opportunity to advance. When he first founded the organization, they raised money primarily to give to other organizations like Flower City Soccer. That was their big baby. As a matter of fact, they funded it 100% in the beginning, and kind of over time that contribution dwindled away so that they could operate and raise their own money. And in 2002, they decided to look at after-school programs as a possible way to make an impact on children. They originally went into school, I believe it was 17, where they had kind of like a drop-in rec program, and then they expanded that to school 30. They left the school 17 program. And then 2005, after looking at best practices and researches around the country, they decided that they wanted to do 3 hour a day, 5 day a week program in a school, because the studies show if you can keep a kid 5 days a week for an extra 3 hours a day between the hours of 3 and 6, you can make not just academic impact, but social and emotional impact as well. So School 34 was the first school that they attempted this at. I was brought in 2006. We now operate in terms of our regular after-school program in 3 schools, School 34, 16, and 4. And then we're the expanded day partner at School 10. And so I'm not sure which review you want, but I'll talk about the expanded day first, because I think that is the hot topic of the city, and one of the things the superintendent is touting as a way to transform schools. I'm a believer in expanding the day for students, but I think that we should have taken our time and rolling it out. The RFP, and I'm going to speak very bluntly because I don't know how else to do it. The RFP that was written to do this wasn't a good RFP. We were told, the people who responded to the RFP were told basically, don't worry about funding. Tell us, and you're shaking your head because you probably heard this, tell us what it is that you need to basically transform this building and make this work. And we had already been working with School 10 because they had approached us about having an after-school program, so we spent 6 months writing a plan. And at the time, we didn't know how we were going to fund it when we started, and then it was a great thing when the district announced, hey, this is what we would like to do. We went into our interview with their expanded day panel, and they liked the plan. And then a week later, we were told that we were selected to work with School 10, but they didn't like the budget numbers. So I asked, how much money do you have? And at the time they said, oh, we have $40,000 for 310 kids for 40 weeks. Now, anybody with any sense of finances knows that that's not going to cut it. And there was some jockeying back and forth, and we got them all the way up to about $178,000, which is still not a lot of money for expanding the day for 310 kids. And I think the number is now 330 because they added another class last week at School 10. So we've been trying to execute this partnership without the right finances to do it, to be honest with you. And so we're attempting to do arts integration with $10 an hour staffers, which in order to do art integration, you probably need a certificated teacher. So that should tell you some of the woes of expanded day. The philosophy and ideology of it is correct, the funding and implementation of it is going to take a lot of work. And that's not to say that it can't be fixed. That's just where we are at this moment. And I'm having a meeting with the superintendent to tell him my frustrations and what I see as a provider and someone who's known nationally for doing after school programs. Because one of the problems I have with the RFP that they really, in my mind, did not sit down with principals when they wrote it, or providers. So it was just kind of like somebody's idea, but they didn't work with the people who were really doing the work. So
amazing.
So that is the situation, and that's not to say that I don't want to be in partnership with the district. It's just to say this is the reality of where we are today. School 10, I have a great relationship with the principal. The kids are wonderful over there. The parents are wonderful over there. We just have to work out the financial issue. You can't ask for a limousine and give me money for a Hyundai. It's just not, it's not going to work. So the other program, School 4 and 16, we hear that 16 is supposed to come back next year. I haven't seen construction start on the building yet. So
who's telling you next year?
Malik told me that. So I'm just saying what I was told. So I don't know why the construction hasn't happened on the building.
Because it hasn't gone to the state assembly and senate yet. So that'll happen next year. So I don't know what Malik is feeding on, but
Well, I'm just saying what I was told.
So it's
Okay.
part of FMP 2,
Okay.
which hasn't been funded yet.
Okay. And then School 4, which is down the street from here, we start on October 16th, I believe is the first day of that. We go 3 hours a day, 5 days a week for 100 kids. We are paying for transportation for all of the kids in the program because, let's face it, when it starts getting this time of night, you don't want kids walking, and we don't release kids freely into the neighborhood. What a typical program at Quad A looks like is the kids at dismissal are dismissed to us. They start with snack and homework. Homework is coordinated by a teacher from the building, which we call a homework coordinator, where they coordinate all the homeworks. They coordinate all the homework for all of the kids in the building with the teachers that are in the building, so we know when a kid says, I don't really have homework, we can say, yes, you do, here's the assignment. That lasts about 45 minutes. And then depending on the day, they go to what we call project-based learning, which is also ran by a teacher in the building, where if you're not familiar with project-based learning is basically a way of integrating fun into a lesson plan so the kids are interested. So if the study is on frogs, then they learn about the habitat of frogs, the color of frogs, what they eat, all of those things. But it's done in a very hands-on kind of way where they might not even know that they're learning. And then we have arts, athletics, and what I would call a social-emotional component. So every day the schedule during that part of the day changes like a college schedule, depending on what day of the week it is and the grade of the kid. So they could be going to karate, an arts class, stepping. We have gymnastics with core. Gymnastics has been with us since they've been in existence over on Lincoln Avenue. We have fencing that was done by a young lady that was an Olympian here. So we try to expose them to different things that they probably wouldn't see, and then we offer things like basketball, baseball component things that they are used to. We try to make it fun, and then we have a literacy component where all of them, all of the sites, we use either Lexia or Compass, which is a computer program where we track the literacy of our kids. We set the benchmarks very early on to find out where these kids are, and we try to put so many offerings in so that they're hitting the marks that's set by the principal for each child. And so that's basically what we do, and then at the end of the day, they get dinner, and then they get on a bus and they go home. unless the parent comes and picks them up. And so that's what Quad A does, and we've been doing it, you know, for a long time.
So how many kids at 16 are in Quad A?
120.
So about a quarter of the school. And the 4As are academics?
Academics, athletics, arts, achievement.
Okay. Fourth one's the one I never remember.
Is that still going on with the 16 kids over at Freddie
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes. Yes. We haven't left them. So, and we've been, you know.
More than 3?
We need more than 3 right now, or? Yeah, that should do it. No.
So we've been attempting to leverage the money that we raise to basically do some other things politically with the school. So I'll give you an example. We spent a lot of time on the School 16 issue working with the superintendent and his staff and the parents saying we didn't want it to go after the superintendent scared all the parents to death saying the building should close. So we yeah. And so we spent a lot of time with the parents actually educating them on what improvements actually happened in the building and what still needed to happen. The principal before Matt Laniak, Sylvia Cooksey, I think that she had a belief that the building needed a lot of improvements, yes, but she didn't think it was one of those things where it should be demolished and moved. She thought that it could be, you know, fixed. And I think when Matt came in, he was kind of carrying the company line about moving the building somewhere else. So that's where we are, and Quad A, you know, continues to try to improve what they provide. We're always doing research on best practices, what works, what doesn't work. I can tell you how much it costs per child to fund a kid in a 40-week program or a 32-week program, depending on, you know, what people want to do. I've traveled all over the country helping people set up programs. I've trained directors and executive directors on how to operate and raise money for programs. We raise, this year we'll probably raise close to $1.3 million to do after school in 4 sites. So, you know,
how do you raise this?
Joe Yu, if anyone doesn't know who Joe Yu was an arm twister in the Jewish community. So he made sure that all his developer friends, insurance friends, all of those guys bought into, you know, investing their money into this. So when I came in, they had a base of donors that regularly gave money. And so we start with them, and then we kind of move out. We've been masterful at getting money from foundations and government. We've had a relationship with like the Farish Foundation. So when they came out with their RFP, they basically told us we were already going to be assured because we've been getting money from them for almost 10 years. So for us, and also being a part of the Community Foundation, it's been beneficial for us because we're in the same building with the folks that grant money out to everyone. And we're under their umbrella in terms of our fiduciary relationship. So
you're not under the school budget?
we are.
You are?
Yes. We are for extended day.
Okay.
And then the district, thanks to Manny Rivera, started paying for some of the teacher component of our program, and they've continued that. It got cut this last year, but I expect it to get cut because of the budget woes, but I'm thankful that they still, you know, see it as something that we want to fund.
Hey, Adam, why are you in those particular schools, and why only those schools?
A lot of it is the relationship with the principal. If the principal buys completely in, we'll go to any school. So School 34 was already in place when I came on board, and we had School 30. School 30 got a different principal. That principal wasn't totally vested in, so we pulled out. We're not afraid to say it won't work Because in order to operate in a building, you have to have, and you know this, you have to have the principal's blessing, because they give you the classrooms, they give you the gym, they give you the bathrooms that are necessary. All of those things that a lot of people don't think about, that infrastructure, if it does not exist, it will not work. And you have to have 100% buy-in from the principal. So that is mainly why we're in the buildings that we're in. Those principals appreciate what we do and they see value in what we do. And it's not just lip service, they make everything happen so we can operate.
For the staff coordination for homework projects and things like that, are you reutilizing the district's Parent Connect program? Or are you independently sort of sidetracking along with it?
We have never used Parent Connect because Parent Connect, when they first announced this tool, they asked us to promote it. And we began promoting it, and parents were complaining that they had no information on their kids in the site, so we did our own survey, and only 20% of our kids actually had information in Parent Connect. So we stopped using it. Because I can't tell somebody to go somewhere, they go and then there's nothing in it. And so we have our own system that we've invested money into, and we've been working with the Children's Institute and their Comet system. And Comet, just so that people know, and I guess I need to disclose all information, Comet was created by Sofitech. Sofitech I was the controller of for 7 years before I came to Quad A. Comet used to be called Mercury, which was my brainchild. Now the Comet that exists, I can't take credit for it, but I know where it came from.
If this were going to expand to other schools, can the funding expand from the current sources? Or
the district cannot afford, to be honest with you, and I had this conversation with their CFO, cannot afford what they're currently trying to do with expanded in terms of that footprint. There's no way to sustain it. But if they do it the way that I've done it, they can afford it. But they have to talk to the folks that have been doing it. Because the problem is contractually, you know, this is a principle, contractually some of the agreements that they have with teachers, they just can't afford to keep those rates. As a matter of fact, when Expanded Day was announced, the CFO came to me and asked me, can you hire the teachers, because they wanted us to reduce the rates. And the union got wind of that, and that didn't go over too well. But at some point, if they really want to do this, they're going to have to do it the way I do it, because they can't afford the rates that they're paying to do it their way. Now, Andrew Cuomo claims that he's going to put money into this idea, but I haven't seen that money yet. I don't know if our commissioner has seen that money yet. Mary, have you seen any? Yeah. I mean, he's talked about it, but I haven't seen it, the funding for it. So I think Quad A is blessed in the sense that we do have a base of donors that believe in what we do. So we'll probably be able to maintain a relationship with School 10. As for us expanding into other schools without additional funding, it would be very tough.
any other questions for Adam? Is the school board talking about anything in the way of expanding this, or is there anything going there?
I mean, I think you captured it pretty well, that there's an interest in using this model to be like a main motivator for, or a main mechanism of improvement, but funding is really is an issue. You know, and then there's competing, demands as always for funding things. There's more and more talk of more summer enrichment and summer literacy programs and so on. So that also would be a depletion of the total pot to try to drive improvements. So it's approaches. So the actual money that you have for staffing for, you know, fundamental evidence-based educational programs is shrinking, you know, compared to strings attached experiments. So it's tough times.
I have a question. As a parent, what can we do to get on board to help push this forward? Do we need to make phone calls? Do we need to fundraise? I have a fundraising background. What do we need to do to get behind this?
I don't think it's fundraising. The reason why I say that is it's easy to fund like short-term types of things, but in order to really make this work, there has to be a real commitment to push this out a generation. You can't do it a couple of years and then drop it and then try to pick it up. And that's what the district has a history of doing, like starting these things and then dropping them. And then our kids suffer because they learned a different way or were used to different support systems and then they disappear. I would say the question has to be to our state legislature, are we really serious about improving the schools? And it can't just be about dollars, but there has to be a real plan in place that we say we're committed to this plan and we're gonna show that by the resources that we direct to. I mean, I really think that's what needs to happen. It's easy for us to wave a flag that it's not working. Anybody can do that. The hard thing is to say, okay, how do we fix it and how do we stay committed to it to understand that it's not gonna get fixed in 1 year. And when we're talking about a 20-year fix, and that's if we're working on it. If we're not working on it, you could be talking about a 40 or 50-year fix. So that's what I've seen. And I'll give you a prime example of how things have just changed. When we were in school, we learned reading using phonics. You go to most schools now, it's sight words. So you ask an elementary kid to sound something out and they look at you like you're crazy because that's changed. And we haven't really told parents that it's changed. Because in order for sight words to work, and you know this as a principal, there has to be somebody home constantly shoving flashcards. I did it with this one. Flashcards in their face all the time. If our parents don't know that one little change happened, is there any reason to guess why we have such a gap in literacy? Just a fundamental change in how we teach literacy. That one little thing. And we haven't done a good job of communicating what that means. And so we have to be working on this issue and be committed to it. And I think parents should be putting pressure on the state legislature to say, enough is enough. We can't just have lip service to this issue. We don't, because to me there are people saying we need a state takeover. That's not going to fix it. Ask Detroit, Michigan what state takeovers mean. Yeah. If anything, it means it gets even worse. Even though you think it's bad now, it can get worse. So this has to be about really having a concrete plan and sticking to the plan. Whether the superintendent changes or not, you have to come up with a plan that people can stick with. As a principal, you have one superintendent said, you're going to be in charge of your budget. You're going to be in charge at the building level, and then a new superintendent comes in and they pull everything out and put it in central office. And they ask the principals to adjust. But all of that stuff has an impact on teaching and learning when they do that. So that's what I mean about having a concrete plan that it doesn't matter who's steering the ship, that the plan will not change. And the problem is we keep changing the captains and everything keeps changing.
But I mean, just to jump in, I mean, it also has to do with who is making that plan.
Yes.
And whether it's educators,
well,
whether it's local
that was my
parents
next
and
question. Is it
community,
parents,
you know, like
educators?
Democrat. Right, so that's not who's driving the ship
No.
now by any means. Right now it's being hijacked and pirated. The ship is being pirated, you know, by a lot of people who are extracting a lot of money through testing, through remediation.
Yes.
So that constant turmoil is very profitable for some people, for some companies, and for some interests.
And that's just not here,
those
that's all
guys have
over the
gotten,
country.
you know, they've gotten a hold of power through the federal government, through the state government. So you have like Merrill Tisch, the chancellor, who has like extremely, you know, questionable conflict of interest issues in terms of finance, capital, and so on.
Okay.
You know, leading the state education. You know, so there's an interest in extracting money from the public system.
Sure.
So yeah, we definitely as parents and teachers have to get together and push the legislature, call these things out, be knowledgeable about why is this nonsensical sight words. I'm sorry, I'm having you know, and there is sounding out stuff, there is some phonics.
That's bad.
But, no, but I mean, we read and we sound the words out at home, regardless, so. But there's a lot of nonsensical stuff. I mean, some of the materials that are being used for Common Core are confusing and shoddy and error-ridden, but people are making a lot of money off of that. So it's up to us to speak out, and they really don't want us to speak out. They really don't want us to question it. They really want it to slide through, you know, because some people are getting paid.
So write letters, sign signatures, use my phone?
Yeah, yeah, so the state legislatures, I don't think Poma's gonna listen myself, but the state legislators, you
Right,
know,
that's where it has to, the push has to come from them. Because
Right.
they approve these contracts, they approve, basically, when we have regents and all those things, they approve all of these people that you kind of put in place.
Right, the regents, the board of regents is appointed, and put pressure on us, put pressure on the school board to not totally abdicate our responsibilities for the space that there is still room for local control and local decision-making, because there's a lot of fear factor and a lot of, you know, like, oh, look what's going on in Buffalo, we have to stick to this.
And I'm gonna say something else. I know I'm being filmed. Everybody was up in the air about whether we should have mayoral control. Remember that argument that Duffy made? Well, I submit to you that you got it today. You just don't know it. But the very same people that were arguing for it, or the very same people now, decision makers in central office.
There's a lot of truth to that. I'll tell you before about it. There's a lot of truth to that.
So the argument that these folks are making about mayoral control, you're witnessing what it is today.
Yes, to your point, I've got some handouts here where you can contact legislatures.
Oh, no, I
And,
know it.
and I have websites and things like that.
I'd like one of those.
Yeah, everyone will have one.
Okay, one last question for you, Adam. How much could volunteers help improve the spread of the money or the utility of the money that you've got for this program?
It's really not a volunteer issue. It is really a question of if they really wanted this to work, just work the plan. The plan that was written by teachers, principals, parents, and us. They just worked the plan, we'd be fine. The problem is, and the funny thing is I had a meeting with the district on Friday because they were not happy. And I said, well, when we sat in the room and we talked about the money, I told you what would happen when you have me cut all of these things because you don't have the money for it, but the entire time you told me not to worry about the money. And I said, no one consulted with me beforehand. I said, it's funny, I get calls from Baltimore, DC, Orlando, Florida, from people who want to set up expanded day programs. I'm seen as an expert here. You don't even ask me how much it costs. And I can tell you, over the last 10 years, I've raised a lot of money for after-school programs. And I can tell you what they cost. So.
Thank you very much, Adam. Appreciate your update on that, and good luck at keeping it going. And,
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, delighted. Hope you can make it anytime you'd like. We'd love to have you.
Oh, just so you know, one of the things that Quad A is doing, we are implementing a soapbox derby offering in our program. So in May, we're hoping to have a big soapbox derby tournament with the 4 schools that we're in. So, yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
And I'm talking about the big cars, not the little ones. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam.